Hello, beauties. Well, today we're going to talk about tragedy. We're going to talk about how to find the blessings and the grace within and after a tragedy occurs. So have you found yourself in tragedy before, whether it's, a death, a betrayal of a loved one, or even a national or global tragedy that hits you in your heart? How do you come to terms with it? And that's what the struggle is for many of us, right? So I'd like to share some of my own experiences to possibly and hopefully help you to come to some awareness about what tragedy serves for us. Okay, so you may or may not know from the post I put up yesterday that today is actually the anniversary of my father's death. 14 years ago, he was killed in a gun-related death. And it was sudden, obviously, and it was tragic. And then a few days ago, somebody came to me and said that they were close to a person who was also experiencing a gun-related death. So this came up for me, and I thought I really want to share with you what I've come to understand about how to get to the other side of tragedy, still with that sense of grace and that faith. So I did, when my father died, have a deep faith that everything happens for a reason. I believe that our relationship had always been the way it was and developed as it did for a reason, and that his death was serving a reason and a purpose. So I always had that strong sense of faith, but that didn't keep me from going into those 7 stages of grief that most of us, I'm sure you've heard of. Shock, going into denial, bargaining, guilt, anger, depression, and then finally moving into acceptance. I certainly experienced the gamut of all of those things, even in the midst of my faith. I remember one week laying on the couch in the dark for a week, months and months after he had passed. So I really experienced the gamut, but I took some really valuable things from this experience, again, that I'd like to share with you. And one of them is that this is an opportunity, whatever's happened is an opportunity for you to actually go in and explore those darker feelings, the sadness, the anger, the grief, the things that we often try to avoid because we feel like if we go into them, they're going to swallow us up and we'll never get out to the other side. But that's simply not true, because actually when we're not going into those and coming to the other side, those feelings are getting trapped and locked up within us. So we actually do want to dive deep and experience the emotions and explore them and find the beauty within them so that we can then come around to the other side having been changed by that experience, right? So there's a book, Khalil Gibran was the author. It was called The Prophet, written years ago. Don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's just a little excerpt I'd like to read from that to put this into perspective. And he says that your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. And even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so too must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And so I found that to be very true and very comforting in my experience throughout the last 14 years. And so I hope that that perspective offers you a little bit of a shift as well. And the other thing that I'd like to offer is that this experience will change you. Whatever it is going to leave its imprint, that you can allow yourself to be rearranged within it. You don't have to, or you have the opportunity not to fight and try to go back to what was, because we can never go backward. We can only ever go forward in life. And so if you allow yourself and you surrender into that rearranging of yourself and your experience of life, then I think you might find that you'll come out with a different understanding, just as you did when you go into the darkness. And finally, piggybacking onto that, this is an opportunity to realize that you are not your story. You are not the circumstances that happen to you. You are not the events that happen in your life. They may give you, they may inform your life, but they don't define what's here in your heart. They don't define you. You are a soul, an ever expansive, infinite soul. And so these experiences do not limit you. They only serve to aid you in your own development. That's my belief. So this is an opportunity for you to connect in with that deeper part of yourself. And I know that when we're in it, it's harder to see the grace, and it's harder to understand all of this when it's occurring. But later, the hope is, if we're going through all of this, that we can look back and find the gifts. And certainly, I find lots of gifts within my father's death. I loved him so dearly. I was a total daddy's girl. But what I saw with my dad was that he allowed his pain to define him. And I know that I could do the same. I could go down that path. But I would rather learn from him. You see, I see what that pain, the toll that it took on him. And I see the suffering he was in when he left this life. And I don't want to be at the end of my life and be in that situation as well. So you see, this is why seeking the grace is so important. This is why trying to have faith, or not trying, but this is why having faith that everything happens for our highest good is true, and that we can choose to make meaning out of whatever tragedy occurs in our life. So I'm sending you lots of love within whatever it is you have or are experiencing. I send you lots of blessings and comfort within it, and I hope that this helps in any way. I love you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.